Before he became the most famous scientist in history, Albert Einstein failed a major entrance exam, had a child almost nobody knows about, and worked a quiet desk job stamping patents. Then, in a single year, he rewrote the laws of the universe, without a lab, without a university position, and almost without anyone noticing at first. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly what happened in that year, and why it almost didn't happen at all. March 14th, 1879, Ulm, in the German Empire. A boy is born who gave no hint of the legacy waiting for him. He was slow to speak, quiet. Some around him worried something was wrong. Then, around 1884, his father gave him a compass, and something shifted. He became consumed by a single question. What invisible force was moving that needle, no matter which way he turned it? School didn't know what to do with a mind like his. He didn't thrive on memorization and rules. He wanted to understand things from the inside out, and that made him an outsider almost everywhere he went. Here's the part of his story that rarely makes it into the popular myth. In 1895, Einstein tried to enter the Swiss Polytechnic in Zurich and failed the arts section of the entrance exam. The man who would later be treated as a symbol of pure genius started his adult life with a documented failure. But that failure didn't stop him. It just delayed him and set up a much bigger story that was still years away from beginning. He finished high school in Aarau, entered the Polytechnic in 1896, and graduated in 1900. And then, nothing. No university offering him a position. No research post waiting. Just a long, frustrating stretch of unemployment for a man who would eventually be called the greatest scientific mind of his century. In 1902, he finally found stable work at the Swiss Patent Office in Bern, reviewing other people's inventions for a living. It looked, to everyone around him, like a quiet, unremarkable life. In fact, it wasn't. In just a few minutes, you're going to understand exactly what happened at that patent office desk. Because in 1905, while stamping other people's patent applications by day, Einstein was quietly working on something that would make every physicist on Earth reconsider what they thought they understood about reality itself. This is the turning point of the entire story. Stay with me to find out. 1905, later called his Annus Mirabilis, which means his miracle year. In a single 12-month stretch, still working full-time at the patent office, Einstein published 5 major scientific papers. One explained Brownian motion, the seemingly random jittering of particles suspended in fluid, offering some of the strongest evidence at the time that atoms actually existed. Another explained the photoelectric effect, how light striking a surface can release electrons. This paper is the one that would eventually win him the Nobel Prize. And then came special relativity, the theory that shattered the assumption that time and space were fixed, absolute, unchangeable. Bound up in this work was an equation so simple, it would eventually become the most recognizable formula in the world. E equals mc squared. A patent clerk, unemployed just 3 years earlier, had just rewritten the foundational rules of physics. Not from a university lab, not with a team of researchers, from a desk job, in his spare time. This is the moment everything changed. Before 1905, Einstein was nobody outside a small circle. After it, physicists across Europe couldn't stop arguing about his ideas. But before we go further into the fame that followed, there's something else about this period of his life that most retellings leave out entirely. Something personal. Something that historians still can't fully explain. We'll come back to it. Because understanding it changes how you see everything else about this story. Keep watching to find it out. The 1905 papers weren't accepted instantly. Many physicists needed years to fully absorb what he was proposing. So Einstein kept working. In 1915, he completed an even deeper theory, general relativity, which redefined gravity itself as the bending of space and time. In 1919, astronomers observed a solar eclipse and confirmed his predictions. Overnight, Einstein wasn't just respected within physics. He became a global celebrity, his face appearing in newspapers around the world. In 1921, he received the Nobel Prize in Physics, not for relativity, which was still considered too radical by some, but for his explanation of the photoelectric effect from that same miracle year. Now, back to what we mentioned earlier, because this is where Einstein's story stops looking like a clean, tidy legend and starts looking a lot more human. In 1902, Einstein had a daughter named Liesel, born before he was married. What happened to her afterward is not fully known. She disappears from the historical record, and to this day, no one is certain of her fate. It's one of the most overlooked chapters of his entire life. In 1933, as Nazi Germany rose to power, Einstein, who was Jewish, left Europe for the United States, eventually settling at Princeton. In 1939, he signed a letter to President Franklin D. Roosevelt, warning that nuclear weapons might be possible, though he never worked on the atomic bomb himself. That letter would go on to influence one of the most consequential government programs in history. And on his birthday in 1951, tired of endlessly posing for photographers, he simply stuck out his tongue at one of them. The resulting photo became one of the most iconic images of the 20th century. A strange, funny footnote to a man usually remembered only for his genius. He died in Princeton on April 18, 1955. And in one final, unsettling twist most people never learn, the pathologist who performed his autopsy removed Einstein's brain without permission from his family, keeping it for decades of study and controversy that followed long after his death. Albert Einstein's real story isn't just about genius. It's about failure, obscurity, and a hidden personal life, all sitting quietly behind the man who, in one extraordinary year, proved that a patent clerk could reshape how humanity understands reality itself. If this story surprised you, hit subscribe. We uncover the hidden details behind history's most famous names, one story at a time. Check out more videos on our channel for deep dives just like this one. And here's a question for the comments. Out of everything you just learned, which fact about Einstein surprised you the most? Let me know below.